My father excluded me from his life and replaced me with his stepsons, so I told him to forget that I was his son. Now he won't stop texting me because I treated him like how he treated me. I've been living with my mom since she and my dad divorced. My dad just married a woman with 2 sons, and they all moved into her house. Where I live with my mom isn't great, especially compared to where my dad lives now. Even the schools there are much better. My school doesn't send students to T20, while this other school sends students to 20, which is a huge difference. I talked to my mom about it, and she thought it might be a good idea for me to live with my dad for the sake of a better school. So I brought up the idea to my dad. He told me he needed to think about it and would reply. After a few days, he told me it wasn't possible. Naturally, I asked him why, and he explained that their house only has 3 bedrooms, theirs and one for each of his sons. He said this is a new phase in their lives, and they need time to adjust to living together. He also mentioned that my stepbrothers and I haven't spent much time together, so conflicts can arise. He thinks I should get to know my stepbrothers better before making a big change that could disrupt the family dynamics. I disagreed with his answer, though. I told him I'd be fine sharing a room with my 13-year-old stepbrother, and we've never had any issues when we've hung out. I also pointed out that saying no to this opportunity could seriously affect my college plans given that the school in that area is much better. I explained that I spend a lot of time at school studying or in EC activities, so I'll not impact many family dynamics. I'm very obedient and do all the chores they need at the house. I'll spend the weekends at my mom's house. But he stuck to his decision. I wanted to move in, so I contacted my grandparents and uncles to talk to my dad. They chatted with him, and he called me afterward pretty angry. He said I should have accepted his first answer, and now the whole family is against him thinking he's not acting correctly. Update. Well, I guess any chance of me studying near my stepmom's house is over. A few days ago, I messaged my dad asking when he picked me up on Friday so I could spend the weekend at their place. He didn't respond, so I asked again, and he said he wouldn't be picking me up and I wouldn't be spending the weekend there. I asked why, and he said it's not his weekend. It's the next one. I was pissed off by this because he never used to use the weekend as his or not excuse. Before he got married, we spent practically every weekend together. This showed that he truly chose his new family over me. He knew I was already upset about the school situation and did this to show that I was not welcome there. I told him it was okay to choose his new family, but he didn't need to pick me up anymore. He could just forget I existed, and I do the same. I logged into Instagram to block him, and I saw a picture of him at an amusement park with my stepbrothers, and he had written, "Me and my boys." He didn't even invite me to go with them. I have no idea when that was. He truly excluded me from his life. I got even more furious and sent him a message telling him to enjoy having 2 sons now instead of just one and that I wanted him to go F himself. My dad called me multiple times. I answered once, and he scolded me saying I acted like a child. I hung up on him and didn't pick up again. He sent several messages saying he wanted to talk to me. I was naive in this whole situation. He replaced me months ago. I couldn't bike to school because of my knee surgeries, and I just realized now that he never once took me to school. It was always my grandparents or my mom. Lately, I've seen him very little, and I thought it was because of the surgeries and recovery. But apparently, he only had space for every other weekend. In contrast, he was always available for me before his new family. My mom is upset with me too. She says I lost my reason, that I have to talk to my dad, that I'm not behaving appropriately. As far as I'm concerned, I'll never talk to my dad again. Now I'm gonna spend the night locked up in my room because if I step out, my mom's gonna try to force me to talk to him. I don't know if I'm doing right or wrong, but I'm just really angry and sad right now. I never thought my dad could replace me like this. I thought he cared about me. Update 2. I talked to my dad, but I told him I'd only talk if my mom were there too. The 3 of us sat down at the table. My mom said I'd be the first to speak, but when I started talking, she said it wasn't what I should say and that I should apologize first. So I apologized to my dad for swearing at him. Then right after, my mom said I was grounded for 2 weeks for swearing at my dad, stating that nothing justifies swearing at your own father. It's the first time I've been grounded in my life. Then it was my dad's turn to talk. He said I was being immature and unfair. He explained that he has other important people in his life now, so he can't give me the same attention as before. I tried to talk, and my mom told me to listen quietly and that I'd have my chance to speak later. He mentioned that I act like everything has to be according to my will and circled back to the school situation. He told my mom that I talked to my grandparents and uncles, and my mom got upset about that, adding another week to my grounding. When I tried to complain, she said she was disappointed in me for not understanding that I should respect my parents' decisions. So I figured it would be better not to argue further as it would extend my grounding. So I'm grounded for 3 weeks now, both for swearing at my dad and not respecting his decision. Finally, he said he's always done everything to be present and give me his best. He said he feels unjustly treated after years of dedication, and I treat him like he's done nothing for me. I agree he was very present and dedicated until recently, but I can't feel that anymore. When I started talking, my mom said if my tone got aggressive, the conversation would end as it's meant to be a friendly discussion, not a fight. I tried to stay as calm as possible so the conversation wouldn't end before I could express my thoughts. Said I understood that there are more people I need to share my dad's attention with now. However, these people are always with him since they live together, and the little time I'd have with him would only be on weekends. I mentioned that for the first time, he brought up the legal aspect that I'm only entitled to be with him every other weekend. I said this showed that he deliberately decreased the time we spent together. Also said that having new people around doesn't mean he can forget about my feelings or me. I told him the photo he posted at the amusement park with the caption "Me and my boys" hurt me deeply. My mom hadn't seen the photo, so I showed it to her, and she was upset with my dad too. I said I understood the difficulty of moving to my stepmom's house, but I felt extremely unjustly treated by the arguments presented. It was as if my stepbrother's difficulty sharing a room with me was just as important as a good educational opportunity for me. I said he should be concerned about my future, but the only opinions that matter are those of his new kids. He said I was misinterpreting things, but that he'd be more careful about posting pictures and captions that could hurt me. He said we're all still adjusting to the weekend issue, and indeed, he'd like me to be able to come over every weekend like it used to be. But now since more people are involved, he needs more predictability. I mentioned again that he was putting others' desires ahead of mine and that my wishes were never a priority compared to theirs. This showed me that he had a preference. He fell silent momentarily and then said he'd fix this situation. I'll always be welcome to visit and stay where he lives. He also said he wouldn't repeat the every other weekend visitation arrangement. He said the school issue is more complicated but is still looking into a solution. He again said I need to understand that circumstances change, and I'm still his priority, but now more people are involved. He mentioned he knows it's not easy for a 15-year-old, but I'm smart enough to know he's speaking the truth. He invited me to spend the weekend with him, but I declined, saying I wasn't welcome. He said he loves me and that I can call him if I ever doubt that at any point. So that's where we are. We're at a bit of an impasse. He sends me several messages daily to show he's there for me. I feel like I'm being a bit unfair to him. On the other hand, I feel like his new family doesn't want me around. Update 3. My mom lifted my punishment. I didn't stay grounded for that entire time. I got closer to her during those days of punishment, which was good because we talked a lot. My dad continues to message me every day. He's been making an effort to ensure I don't feel rejected. Last weekend, I went to my stepmom's house, and it was interesting because I think I finally understood that my dad was right. I was being spoiled and trying to force my move there. I was there on Saturday afternoon, and a neighbor kid came to talk to my stepbrother, and I overheard part of the conversation. The neighbor asked if he could sleep over, and my stepbrother said no because I was there. I felt terrible about that. It was probably the first time I understood that my presence there would impact everyone in the house, and I was selfish by not putting myself in their shoes and understanding this. My stepmom married my dad with certain expectations for their life, and suddenly, I unilaterally wanted to change that life. And they probably can't afford a bigger house in the same neighborhood to accommodate me. Of course, if something happened to my mom, they'd take me into their home. However, forcing a situation they likely discussed before getting married was wrong and selfish. I think I was too focused on the ends justifying the means. I value my education a lot, so I was trying to force a situation that would be unpleasant at the very least. I was also selfish when I demanded that my dad include me in everything, like in the photo at the amusement park. I still don't like what he wrote, but he'll have to have moments alone with my stepbrothers. Anyway, that's it. I don't think there will be any more updates after this. I've learned my lesson that I need to listen to others more, put myself in their shoes, and control my reactions, which can be unfair.